On a damp, stormy weekend, a solitary traveler finds herself taking refuge in an isolated woodland house owned by her friend. With the surrounding forest blanketed in shadows and the rain pelting the windows relentlessly, the house exudes an eerie calm. Although her friend was away on a family trip, the visitor was not entirely alone. Molly, the friend's independent cat, wandered from room to room, seemingly unfazed by the howling winds and relentless thunder. The weekend's forecast had predicted an ominous storm, and true to the weather, the tempest raged through the entire period. The isolation of the rural dwelling, nestled deep within the woods, lent an air of both peaceful solitude and impending dread. The tranquility of the visitor's day was abruptly disturbed by the chime of an antique home phone, a relic from another era, ringing insistently in the silence. The first call displayed an unknown number. Initially, she dismissed it as nothing, more than a wrong number, or perhaps an echo of the storm's static. However, the second ring brought with it an unsettling message. A hushed male voice uttered a single chilling word: the friend's name. The message was short, filled with a disconcerting pause and a heavy silence before the call abruptly ended. In the following hours, the same mysterious number called repeatedly, leaving no further clues but a growing sense of foreboding that something was amiss in the midst of the tempest. Later that afternoon, while the visitor settled into a comfortable routine of reading on an overstuffed couch, an unexpected chill broke through the hum of the storm. On a seemingly ordinary trip to check on Molly, who always chose peculiar spots to rest, she discovered the cat standing rigidly at the front door. The cat's gaze was fixed intently on the narrow gap of the doorway, as if expecting someone or something to materialize. Compelled by an inexplicable dread, the visitor approached the door. Peering through a fogged-up peephole, she caught a fleeting glimpse of a shape on the porch. For a brief moment, it seemed as though someone, or something, was waiting silently, outside. Though the figure remained elusive in the blurred view, its presence raised a deep, instinctive unease. As dusk deepened, the unsettling silence was punctuated by a sudden realization. Molly, who had been a silent witness to the unfolding mystery, had vanished from her usual post. The visitor's heart pounded as she scoured the vicinity, and her fears were confirmed when she observed that the familiar shape on the fogged glass had shifted unnaturally. Without warning, the sensation of being watched intensified. Driven by equal parts concern and terror, she pressed herself against the door, listening intently. In a nerve-wracking moment, she discovered that someone was standing barely inches away from the threshold. The intruder, who had hidden in plain sight behind the veil of rain and shadow, had forced a reluctant lock on the door before darting away into the night. With trembling hands, she dialed emergency services, her mind racing with the possibility that this silent stalker was not there by chance, but was deliberately waiting for the house to be empty. When the police finally arrived, the house lay in an eerie stillness, a silence punctuated only by the residual sounds of the storm. Investigators combed through the area, yet no trace of the intruder could be found beyond that fleeting glimpse through the peephole. It was as if the mysterious visitor had evaporated into the tempest. However, an unsettling theory began to take shape. The intruder might have been a stalker, targeting the friend who owned the house rather than the temporary guest. Even though no concrete evidence was gathered, the sinister implication that someone had been lurking, watching, and perhaps planning for a future encounter left an indelible mark on the visitor's mind. Not long after the unnerving events at the woodland house, another chapter of terror unfolded in an equally unexpected way. In mid-November, freshly laid off and desperate for a fresh start, the visitor spent her days scouring job boards for any glimmer of hope. Amid the monotony of rejection and uncertainty, an email appeared. A job interview opportunity with a man named Zach. Despite her reservations about the last-minute nature of the invitation, she decided to attend, hoping that this could mark the beginning of something new. Driving to an address provided in the email, she found herself pulled into a desolate parking lot by a nondescript building. The exterior was unremarkable, barely illuminated by the scant lights of a cold November evening. The building, which bore only a number and no name, exuded an unsettling emptiness. Despite arriving early and trying to contact Zach by phone, there was no answer. With an increasing sense of foreboding, she left the location, her mind haunted by the possibility that something sinister lay beneath this seemingly mundane invitation. The day's earlier disappointment was soon overshadowed by yet another unnerving encounter. As the visitor returned home from the unsettling interview ordeal, she found herself stepping out onto her front porch to catch a breath of the cool, damp air. Seated with a cigarette in hand, she observed the rain and the silence that enveloped her rural property. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a lone rider approaching along a distant dirt road, a figure on what appeared to be a dirt bike, cloaked in a full-face helmet. The stranger's presence was initially attributed to a simple case of mistaken direction, but as the figure drew nearer, it became apparent that this was no ordinary passerby. The rider halted near her garage, his eyes fixated on the house. In that tense moment, the visitor's instinct screamed that this unknown traveler was not simply lost, but was purposefully watching her every move. Without a word, the rider eventually turned around and vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a lingering chill of apprehension. That night, after a long day of unsettling encounters, the visitor sought refuge in the familiarity of her home. Exhausted, she retired to her bedroom and soon fell into a restless sleep. In the pitch-black room, a subtle creaking sound, almost imperceptible over the storm's din, disturbed her slumber. Gradually, as the darkness pressed in, she became aware of a slow, deliberate motion coming from the closet. With eyes barely adjusting to the inky gloom, she saw the closet door slide open, revealing a vague outline of a figure. Frozen by a terror that defied words, she could only watch in paralyzed disbelief as the shape lingered in the doorway. The figure's presence was silent, its intent hidden behind a mask of stillness, until with a sudden burst of adrenaline, she bolted from the bed and scrambled for her phone. In that harrowing moment, she realized that the invader had been lurking mere feet away while she slept, an uninvited presence in a space meant for safety. Barely recovering from the terror of the closet incident, the visitor's ordeal escalated once more. Still shaken, she ventured into the hallway and peered cautiously through a window. There, amidst the flickering shadows and relentless rain, she caught sight of a man in full black, clad entirely in dark clothing and wielding a hammer. His presence was unmistakable. He stood motionless, as if scanning the interior of the house through a rain-streaked window. The figure's eyes, hidden behind a mask of intent and malice, betrayed no sign of humanity. In a flash of desperate determination, she fired up her truck's high beams, which momentarily transformed the night into a blinding scene of harsh light and deep shadows. Startled, the intruder abandoned his vigil and fled into the storm, disappearing into the inky darkness. Yet the memory of that final confrontation, with the glint of the hammer and the menace in his posture, would haunt her for many nights to come. In the days that followed, the series of inexplicable and frightening events left a lingering chill on the visitor's soul. Authorities were notified, and while the police managed to apprehend the mysterious intruder from the earlier break-in, many questions remained unanswered. Who was behind the haunting calls and the staged job interview that had led her into the heart of a meticulously orchestrated trap? Was it a singular stalker, or were there multiple forces at work, drawn to her vulnerability in the midst of a violent storm? As she pieced together the fragments of each terrifying encounter, from the spectral calls on the antiquated phone to the ghastly intrusions at her door and closet, she was forced to confront the unsettling possibility that the menace had been lurking in the shadows for far longer than anyone could ever suspect. Her life, once marked by routine and quiet solitude, had been irreversibly shattered by the presence of an unseen predator. Even as the police case files slowly gathered dust and the media's interest waned, the memory of those dark, stormy nights continued to cast long shadows over her days. Every flash of lightning, every unexpected creak in the old wooden floors, and every distant hum of a dirt bike would momentarily transport her back to those moments of sheer terror. And so, the isolated house in the woods, once a haven of peaceful seclusion, became the setting of a true horror story, one that defied explanation and left its mark on all who dared to remember it. Now, in the cold light of dawn, as she reflects on the relentless storm of events that upended her world, the visitor can only wonder if the darkness she encountered was born of a troubled mind, or if something truly sinister had been stalking her all along. the unanswered questions persist, echoing through the empty halls of the abandoned house, as if waiting for another storm to unveil the secrets hidden within its walls. In the end, this is not merely a tale of a series of unfortunate events. It is a chilling reminder that even the most ordinary lives can become intertwined with inexplicable terror. The relentless force of nature, the intrusion of a stalker, and the unsettling unknown that crept in through cracks in everyday life serve as a testament to how fear can emerge when least expected. With each storm that rolls in, each creak of an old floorboard, and every flicker of light in the dead of night, one can almost hear the echo of that long-ago nightmare, a haunting refrain that promises the darkness is never truly gone. For those who dare to listen closely, the story stands as both a cautionary tale and a mirror reflecting the hidden vulnerabilities within us all. In the interplay of light and shadow, in the silent moments when the world seems to hold its breath, the boundaries between reality and horror blur. And while the visitor's experience may be wrapped in mystery, it leaves behind an indelible imprint, a reminder that the specter of fear can be as real as the pounding of our hearts on the darkest nights.